What's up, guys? Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bass. In today's video, we are talking about some of my favorite topwater baits. So I have some tips and some tricks to help you become a successful topwater fisherman this fall. If you haven't realized it already, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you've missed some of the fishing videos, guys, I love throwing topwater. Just going back all the way to my childhood, just seeing a fish come up and explode on a hard bait or a hollow bodied frog or whatever it may be, but see them come up and eat topwater. It's just, for me, it was life-changing. It was what got me hooked on bass fishing, throwing a jitterbug or a hula popper way back, you know, in the pond hopping days. But guys, fall fishing is coming. And for me, that is one of my favorite times of the year to throw a topwater. It's when these fish get really bait fish oriented. You know, they start schooling up and chasing these big balls of bait around. And I always have a topwater tied on this time of the year. Whether I'm shaking a shaky head or a drop shot, I still have my topwater rod unhooked, casting length, ready to go, laying on the deck of the boat. That way, when they do come up schooling, I can drop my rod, pick up my rod, and send it. And I don't have to worry about unhooking the hooks, or, you know, these fish they're exploding, they're aggressive, but they move quickly. So you want to get onto them quickly. So being able to switch what you're fishing, put it down, and pick up topwater is key if you're not already, you know, stuck with that topwater, you know, in your hand. But oh man, I threw this bait out there. I was just waiting for a blow up. It's just that time of the year. We get those cooler nights, we get those fish schooling up, we get the bait fish kind of balled up, and it's go time. These fish are so bait fish oriented, and it's just prime time to throw topwater. So some tips. If you guys haven't played around with a front runner or know what a front runner is, they used to be, we buy them by the cases because you couldn't get them anywhere. But PH Customs makes this guy right here. I take my favorite topwater and rig it about 8 to 10, 12 inches behind this little guy right here. That is also a topwater bait. I did put a little feathered treble on there. But what this thing does, it mimics a smaller fish chasing a shad or a bait fish. So just like you'd walk your favorite spook or rover or shower blows or whatever, vixen, whatever your favorite topwater bait is, you put that front runner in front of it, and it does this, right? So you double up your chances of getting bit. I've caught multiple doubles on the topwater itself and then the front runner, you know, especially with these schooling fish. But having that secondary, whatever you want to call it, motion, bait, whatever it is, it just looks different than a traditional side-to-side walking bait. And a front runner adds a ton of extra movement to your topwater. It adds extra commotion and just that extra it factor. So if you haven't played around with a topwater, that's a tip for you guys to play around this fall. I've had so many great days because of, or better days because of the topwater. You know, sometimes I will rig straight braid to the front of the topwater of the front runner, and then I'll run my mono leader, only because I've hooked like 15 to 20 pound striper on both baits. And when you have big fish, multiple big fish, and they decide to go different directions, game over, right? It just is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it when you have two big ones going separate directions. So sometimes I will do straight braid to the front runner, but that just adds a little bit of different movement. It's not something they see a lot. I don't see a lot of guys throwing a front runner on their traditional topwater baits. I mean, I'm excited at iCast this year. Bill Lewis is going to be releasing, I think they called it the Zigzag. So it's going to be a version of a smaller front runner, which will be really cool, but having options in that category will be great. You know, like I said, Matt and I think we were down at Falcon in Texas and found a tackle shop that had a bunch of old front runners on pegs, and we bought all of them. So if you haven't found any, it's because of us. We ended up buying them all. But this time of the year, just tweaking your top waters a little bit can mean the difference between having a good day and a great day. Again, these fish, we're well into the what are we, almost to October realistically. So 9 months of fishing so far this year. These fish have seen a lot of baits. They've seen a lot of normal, traditional sized and sounding baits. So some other tips for you. I love fishing fast, okay? These fish are aggressive. We're not talking about colder weather, cooler wintertime fish. These fish are aggressive. They've been in hot water all summer. We got more oxygen now in the water with these cooler nights, and these fish are thinking about feeding up, and they're aggressive. So I like to throw or work my top water extremely fast. So it's twitch, 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 pause. Twitch, 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 pause. Twitch, 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 pause. I'm just getting that thing just skipping a lot along the way. Okay, I'm moving that. I'm making, in my mind, I'm making my topwater look and act like a fleeing bait fish. It's not the traditional, you know, side to side, just same old, you know, walking a spook. It's pause, pause, right? It's just adding those sporadic cadence changes will mean all the difference in the world, I promise you. One other tip for you guys, you know, how I really, well, let me show you guys this, right? Normally when we're fishing, at least when I'm fishing, I'll speak from my experience. When I pick out a key area in my mind, say it might be this grass line, it might be this laydown over here, it might be that dock, whatever it may be, and I make my cast to it, and I'm, right, I'm walking along, nothing happens. Well, then I start burning my bait in to make the next cast. I can't tell you this time of the year, specifically right now, this time of the year, how many fish I've had as soon as I speed up my cadence to reel my bait in to make another cast. That's when they blow up on it, and usually they'll miss it. Sometimes they'll get it, about rip the rod out of your hand because you're not expecting it, but a lot of times they'll miss it, you pause it, and they come back and just annihilate it right at the boat. So if you think about this and you make your cast and you're a topwater fisherman and you're working it, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna make it over there, add a pause into your retrieve back to the boat. My first tip is fish it all the way back to the boat. I can't tell you how many times I've been blown up right on the trolling motor, or I think fish feel like they can kind of pin that bait that they see, whether real or your bait, coming to the boat. And they feel like they can pin it against the boat. So a lot of times they'll explode right at the boat. So first tip is don't give up on your cast. I have a hard time doing that because I'm always thinking about the next cast, but fish your bait all the way back to the boat. If you just think about it, that's simply, you're doubling your effective fishing, right? You literally are fishing the whole cast instead of just a quarter or half of the cast, and you're fishing a lot more water. But if you're one of those guys like me, always trying to move, and you get through that key area where you think you should have been bit and you haven't been bit, you start burning it back to the boat, add that little pause in there. I promise you guys, you will get scared a couple times this fall, just with those fish, they just chasing it down, and you pause it and then they just annihilate it. So 2 little tips there for you. It's just something I've learned through the years, just fishing in the fall time. These fish are crazy. They're feeding up. They got nothing but bait fish on their mind, and they're trying to just kill and eat. And picking up the cadence really helps get bit this time of the year. And I have a couple specific baits that'll help you do that. We'll talk about baits here shortly, really kind of give you some really key baits for me personally. this time of the year that have had a ton of success in. But fish your bait all the way back to the boat. Change your cadences. You know, if you're walking, twitch, 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 pause. Twitch, 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 pause. You know, just change it up a little bit. You know, these fish, it's like that cat and mouse game. These fish want to chase. So make sure that you're changing or playing around with your cadences and you're fishing that thing all the way back to the boat, or at least adding that pause as you go to make the other cast. Again, these fish are all about bait fish. They're schooled up, they're aggressive. Always have that rod ready to go, whether you're finesse fishing or you know, whatever fishing you're trying to do, always have that topwater rod ready to go. What else? If you're not into throwing topwater, I highly suggest you do it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite ways to catch them, just seeing those explosions. You know, it can be fished on a spinning rod, it can be fished on a bait caster. There's straight retrieve baits. You don't have to know anything about bass fishing. You can rig up a spinning rod for your little kid or your significant other and just throw it out there and wind it back to the boat. Super easy. And I promise you, they will remember their first topwater bite for a very long time. But let's go ahead and talk about baits. This time of the year, for me, I say simplify it, but I usually have a process for my topwaters. Normally, well, I'll run you through 3 of the 4 that I typically have tied on. So as far as just my traditional straight walking bait, it's going to be, if I want a loud bait, it's going to be a shower blows, the 105. 125 is great. The 105 is a little bit smaller. You guys know that we love throwing that bait. This bait is fairly loud, sticky, sharp hooks, has a good weight transfer system. Now the key with this bait, the reason I love this bait specifically, and I've tried a lot of topwater baits, is simply because I can throw it like 60 yards. This bait, even though it's a smaller bait, this time of the year, I can't tell you how many times fish come up to the surface blowing up just out of reach of my casting distance with traditional topwaters, with other topwaters that I love throwing. This bait, that shower blows 105 and the 125 too, but this bait specifically, for its size, I can cast it at least 10 to 15 yards farther than I can with other baits in the same size category, if that makes sense. So that's why I love this bait so much. It does sound so good. I've caught hundreds of fish on shower blows through the years, but being able to reach out and touch those fish, it matters. You know, if they're 10 yards outside your cast, you might get bit, but I guarantee you casting accuracy and landing in the middle of that blow up or in the middle of that, you're gonna get bit. So that is why I always have that bait tied on. That's my number 1 go-to bait. Now with that said, my other go-to bait, my 1-2 punch, is going to be this guy, the Giant Dog X. That's a bluegill pattern. Talk about colors in a little bit. This has a little knock to it. This is my favorite finessey topwater. If you find yourself in conditions like this, not a ripple on the water, it's quiet, you know, just not a lot going on, hands down, this is my number 1 topwater. I will catch fish, way more fish than I will catch on the shower blows in these conditions. If there's a little bit of chop on the water, I'm going with the shower blows. But this guy right here, the Giant Dog X, and it's not big. It says giant in the name, but I mean, here it is to a full-size rover. It's 2/3 the size. I mean, it's not big at all. So don't be thrown off by that giant name. But I'm going to talk about it just since I'm holding this bait. Typical colors, I'm going bait fish colors. I'm going natural bait fish colors or bluegill colors, right? These fish are eating shad, they're eating herring, they're eating panfish, bluegill. My 1-2 punch as far as colors is bluegill and some kind of bait fish or chrome, okay? That's just, these fish are all about chasing topwater, and those are my best colors. Getting back to the actual baits themselves, this is my 1-2 punch, depending on water conditions. So I always have these tied on. Again, this thing is awesome in first light, when it's just real cold, real calm, not a ripple on the water. It's just quiet. You can hear for, you know, seems like forever, and you don't want to be too aggressive. That Giant Dog X just does, it almost has like a bloop bloop, like a popper does, and it just gets eaten when other topwater baits won't. And then a full-size topwater. So I showed you guys the shower blows. Look at it compared to the River to Sea Rover, quite a bit smaller, this guy. But if you're on a largemouth fishery and you're fishing around grass lines, or you're fishing around bluegill eaters, that's when 100% of the time I'm throwing a full-size topwater, whether it's a spook or a rover or a vixen. You know, out west, we really love the rover because that real pingy, tinny sound to it has a different sound than some of the others. Vixens obviously are great, but with that said, that is my combo that I'm throwing the front runner on. It's a little bit bigger profile behind it. Again, you're throwing it out. Woo. Backhand, left hand, throwing it out, and you're just making your topwater chase that other bait fish or pan fish, and it just adds that extra element to the topwater. And I'll overlay some video of showing how that bait looks in the water. Now, with that said, my fourth topwater that I typically have tied on this time of the year is going to be one of these. Whether it's they're all quick moving topwaters. So it could be a whopper plopper, something that's straight retrieve. You fire it out there, you know, just plop, 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 plop. These fish will come out and just shark it. They'll just grenade on it. It's a bait that you can stop and pause, change your cadences with, get faster, slower. But again, it's a fast moving topwater. It's not going side to side. It's covering a lot of distance, and I typically fish it fast. These fish like the fleeing bait fish style of baits. And then two others for you. You guys have heard us talk about the Hellraiser. That's been out for a few years now. Completely different style topwater. It's a line tie right here, weighted system, feathered hook in the back that sits like this in the water. But when you fish it fast, it just moves really, really fast. So this is a bait that you can cover a ton of water. It's got some weight to it. So again, you can reach out and touch some of those long distance fish out there. But this is a really, really cool bait. It caught a bunch of fish on it last year. And then this guy right here, the Dartwing by Nomad. Again, at first, we kind of thought this was a walking bait, but this thing is like a skipping, like burn it, get this thing going, twitching it, and it's gonna, like a fleeing bait fish skipping out of the water. That is another really cool bait. Kind of an emerging category in topwater. You know, baits that move really quickly, that can do directional changes and skip and get airborne out of the water. Just really cool. Kind of like the Jackal, the riser bait. So another great one in that category. But I have some kind of fast moving bait, something that I can cover a lot of water. You know, if I'm not visibly seeing these fish blowing up, I can cover a shoreline or a main lake point shoreline fairly quickly and find those truly aggressive fish. And then if you're a grass fisherman, you're fishing along those grass edges, that whopper plopper works great. You know, buzzbait works great. This megabass right here, you don't have to put a trailer on it. It comes with some longer appendages. You don't necessarily have to run a bait on it, but you can run a stinger hook or a trailer hook on it. But this is a cool little buzz bait that you can run right along that grass line, right along that shade line, or that dock line, whatever it may be. Again, this will sink when you pause it, but this has a loud, obnoxious, really aggressive sound to it. That buzz bait, that single Single buzz, you got to go a little bit quicker than a double buzz. But that, if I need to throw a buzz bait, that's my go-to this time of the year as well. But guys, summer to fall, we're in that transition period. I'm looking forward to fall, you know, that fall, summer to fall transition, and then that actual fall topwater season is some of my favorite topwater season of the entire year. You know, we're blessed out here on the Tennessee River. Not only do we get that kind of bait fish, schooling fish mentality, you know, the aggressiveness of those fish offshore, but now we get the, they start drawing the water down a little bit here on the Tennessee River, and now we have like miles and miles and miles of grass to fish, and the frog fishing just gets epic as well. So we're blessed to be out here, topwater season, but whether you're out west, up north, down south, wherever you are, fall time is topwater season, and these baits right here will get the job done. Remember, fish fast, change up your cadences, and fish your bait all the way back to the boat. If you don't, add that pause in there and you will be surprised, because hang on, sometime, I promise you, this time of the year, they will try and rip that bait, that rod out of your hand. Guys, as always, we appreciate the support. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please leave those down below in the comment section. We'll try to get those as soon as possible. I will link all these baits and colors down below in the video description. But we appreciate you. If you learned something from this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys on the next video.